Hi! Welcome back to Children's Liturgy of the Word for the fourth Sunday of Easter. I'm Mrs. O'Leary, or Miss Jen, depending on how you know me, and I'm happy to represent St. Elizabeth Ann Seton to present this week's lesson for you. Just a little something in case you're all wondering. I record in here with this background of the map and everything because I'm also a teacher, and the class I teach is a world cultures class. So we use the maps a lot and I refer to them, and they're a good background. And so I film those and I film these, and it's just easier to keep the same background most of the time. Anyway, back to our lesson. This is our fourth Sunday of Easter, and it's sometimes referred to as Good Shepherd Sunday. Anybody know who the Good Shepherd is? Who are we referring to when we talk about the Good Shepherd? Jesus, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about him later, because we always get around to Jesus somehow, don't we? But first I want to think about a story that you probably know. It's a children's fairy tale called Little Red Riding Hood. So in the story of Little Red Riding Hood, we have a little girl named Little Red Riding Hood, and she goes to visit her grandma in the woods at her house, and she runs into a wolf. Exactly. So the wolf is the bad guy in this story, and what is it that he does that's not such a good thing? Right, the wolf dresses up, well, he eats grandma, and then he dresses up like grandma and tries to trick Little Red. Now, there are lots of different versions of this story. In fact, we have one in our house right now, because I don't know if I've mentioned, I have 4 children. So we have one version in our house right now that's from the library that isn't going back anytime soon. And in this one, Little Red is super smart, and she figures out that the wolf is the one dressed up. But what I want you to remember about this story is no matter what version you know, the wolf is the bad guy. He dresses up like grandma, and then he tries to trick Little Red Riding Hood. The other thing I want you to remember about this story is a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit trickier. Little Red Riding Hood usually comes in, sees the wolf dressed up like her grandma, and she has a feeling that something isn't right. Sometimes our story will say she didn't feel like it was quite right. And sometimes, well, always, she says, "Grandmother, what big eyes you have. Grandmother, what big hands you have. Grandmother, what big teeth you have." My point is, she says all these things because she knows that something's not quite right. Like, why is grandmother having bigger eyes and bigger teeth and, right? She knows something's not quite right. All right, so I want you to remember that story before we get started. The other thing I want to talk about is, before I read the gospel, since it's Good Shepherd Sunday, what do shepherds do? Are there still shepherds now? Sure, I think there probably are. But long ago, there were many shepherds. And shepherds do a lot of things. One thing they do is care for their sheep. They make sure they have everything they need. They take good care of them. Another thing shepherds do, they lead their sheep where they're supposed to go, right? Sheep might be within a fence, and if the sheep goes out of that fence, the shepherd leads them and guides them back to where they're supposed to be. Shepherds also protect their sheep. They make sure that if there's a wolf or another kind of predator, the sheep are protected and taken care of and safe. It's also important to know that a shepherd takes care of sheep during the day and during the night. So they might take shifts, they might be there at different times, but think about the Christmas story, the shepherds are there. The angels come to them and it's nighttime. The shepherds are still watching over their sheep, right? They're taking care of them. So I want you to remember while I read this gospel, shepherds take care of their sheep, they lead their sheep, and they protect them, all right? All right, so just a reminder again, we're going to cross our head so that these words of the gospel are in our head. And we're going to cross our lips so the words are on our lips. And we're going to cross our heart so that the words of the gospel are in our heart. And if you haven't watched before, I'm going to read actually the gospel from my computer screen, so it's kind of going to look like I'm looking at you. But I just want you to know that I'm reading right here in front of me. A reading from the Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, I tell you for certain that only thieves and robbers climb over the fence instead of going through the gate to the sheep pen. But the gatekeeper opens the gate for the shepherd, and he goes through it. The sheep know their shepherd's voice. He calls each of them by name and leads them out. When he has led out all of his sheep, he walks in front of them, and they follow because they know his voice. The sheep will not follow strangers. They don't recognize a stranger's voice, and they run away. Jesus told the people this story, but they did not understand what he was talking about. Then Jesus said, I tell you for certain that I am the gate for the sheep. Everyone who came before me was a thief or a robber, and the sheep did not listen to any of them. I am the gate. All who come through me will be saved. Through me they will come and go and find pasture. A thief comes only to rob and kill and destroy. I came so that everyone would have life and have it in its fullest. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, so that was our gospel for the day, and you can probably understand why today would be called Good Shepherd Sunday. Jesus says right there in the gospel that he is our shepherd and he is going to take care of us. When he says that, he's trying to compare himself to a shepherd because most people then knew what shepherds were, and they understood that shepherds care for their sheep just like Jesus cares for us. And shepherds lead their sheep. They lead them in the right direction. They lead them out of danger. And shepherds protect their sheep just like Jesus protects us and leads us away from danger and leads us on the right path. So I want you to remember this week that Jesus is our good shepherd. We are his sheep. He knows us. He has known us and been with us since we were born, since before we were born. And he will care for us and protect us and lead us in the right directions. Now let's talk a little bit about Little Red Riding Hood again, all right? And the wolf, the bad guy in that story. Because the other thing that Jesus talked about in this gospel was there are thieves and robbers. He was talking about that. He was talking about how there are other leaders and other things that will guide you like a shepherd does, but not in the right direction. So I want you to imagine in the story of Little Red Riding Hood, Grandma is kind of like Jesus, right? Little Red knows that she needs to go to her grandma. Grandma will love her and protect her, right? And the wolf dresses up like Grandma. The wolf wants to trick her and deceive her so that she will go his direction. And sometimes in our lives, there will be things that lead us in the direction we're not supposed to go. The good news is that you can always come back to Jesus. And like we've talked about other weeks, there are lots of great ways for you to come to Jesus. We can come to him through Mass and communion and Eucharistic adoration. We can know Jesus better from the Bible, right? From the stories he's given us and from the stories about him. And we can also know Jesus from the people that in our lives who we know and trust. Your parents, your godparents, some of your teachers and religious education teachers, Father Paul, other priests, other religious that you know. I want you to think about some people you know who you just know in your heart lead you to Jesus, who help you to make good choices. Because just like Little Red Riding Hood just didn't have a good feeling about the wolf, you know there are things in your life where you don't always feel quite right about them. Think about the things you are sure about, though. The wolves in your lives are going to ask you to be sneaky. They're going to dress up, and they're going to ask you to do things you shouldn't do. So follow the Good Shepherd. Follow Jesus. Okay, so now let's get to a little bit of homework, sort of. I don't know if you know this. Next Sunday is Mother's Day. That's kind of important for your mother. And you might have other mothers in your life, like your godmother or a grandmother, another woman in your life who is special to you. But what's great about our faith and our Catholic tradition is that we all have Mary as our spiritual mother. So Father Paul got in touch with me and said that I could talk to you about this. He would like to crown Mary, the statue of Mary, next weekend. And traditionally, we take a statue of Mary and crown her head with flowers. It's a way for us to show her our love and dedication, and it's a way to treat her as the Queen of Heaven. So he's asking all the children of our parish, and even the kids at heart, to make or color in flowers this week. So some of you probably know how to make origami or use colored paper to make flowers, and you're more than welcome to do that. Or you can draw your own flowers and then color them in, or you can get a coloring page of flowers. I think he's going to post those on the Facebook page, and I will definitely post them in the Moms Seton group. Shameless plug for Moms Seton group. So then you can use those flowers to crown your own Mary statue at home, or you can send them into Father Paul, and you can do that with email, and you can snap a picture of it, or you can send it through the mail if you get them done early enough this week. But next Sunday, for Mother's Day, he's going to take all the flowers he gets and crown Mary at church with those paper flowers, whether they're colored in or drawn or made out of paper. So it's kind of an exciting way for us all to be together in a certain way and to honor Mary. And if you're a kid and you're watching this, I would highly recommend you make an extra one for your actual mom at home, or another kind of mom in your life, a godmother or grandmother or another special mom, somebody who's special to you. Because Mother's Day is a great day to tell those ladies that you love them. All right. So thanks again for joining us for Good Shepherd Sunday for the 4th week of Easter and Children's Liturgy of the Word. And I hope to see you again next week. Bye.